All right, welcome everyone. We have a special Sunday live stream with the one and only Michael Zuber, and we are pretty much 1 week out from the One Rental at a Time event in Vegas, year three. It was amazing, but I do have Gus O'Feely and Ray also joining us. So, morning, everyone.
Good
Morning,
morning.
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 All right, so this is for you guys, Gus, Ray, everyone that's here in the chat. Thank you for stopping by. But does anyone have any questions they want to start off with? Ray, maybe you got one for him?
Yeah. Um, I think I really like the how the event went. I
Mhm.
think my question is more for next year or the following. Are we thinking about maybe changing up the location a little bit? I know next year we're not, but Zuber had mentioned maybe switching it up a little bit.
Yeah, so certainly next year will not be switched. I've actually already cut a check, putting a deposit down, so that year four is locked in. I do like this event or the space for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it's off strip, which means it's a lot cheaper. If you guys don't know, getting a hotel on the strip at Vegas starts at 25,000 a day before food, before AV, before all these things. So, the blind center is not that. So I like it. Plus, I like it off strip, so you guys don't get distracted by gambling and all of those other things that happen in Vegas. That said, I do see sometime in the future where we will have to go to a bigger venue, and then at that point, we probably change locations because I got to tell you, I'm not doing a Vegas thing. I've done hundreds of those for my sales career, and it just leads to things problems I don't need. So once we kind of sell out the blind center, we have to go somewhere bigger. So yeah, then I'll find another location, which will probably, I don't know, 70% chance not be Vegas, because I spent a lot of time looking in Vegas before this, and I don't think anything's changed. So not for year four, but possibly year five.
Cool.
Lauren was here. I'm not sure
I
where
saw
she
for a
dropped.
second.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there is a question real quick. So since we're on this topic of the event, is
Uh-huh.
Stan is asking, what's the date for next year's event?
So it's Martin Luther King weekend, which I believe will be Saturday, January 16th, and Sunday, January 17th, thus allowing full-time employees to fly out on Monday, a national holiday, uh, January 18th. So yeah, January 16th and 17th, which means I'm already 1 month behind for setting up for next year. So I have one less month to get us ready to rock and roll for January.
All right. Before Gus maybe has a question for you, I do want to get to some that are in the chat. So I do see Jacob, who's a new member in school. He joined at the event, so he is at Bridging Tenants. He said, you mentioned a pseudo forced retirement in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Take us through that experience. Had you
Yeah.
asked yourself before that time how impacted you would be without the W 2 income before this time?
Oh, that's a deep question. So there's really two questions there. So the setup for that day, which I think was February 4th or 5th, whatever that Monday was, the first Monday in February, I forget. I should have checked, but I don't remember, 4th or 5th. And I had just ended a year blowing out my numbers. If you guys don't know, in sales, you have yearly quotas, and my company's year ended on January 31st. So whatever that first Monday was essentially the first Monday of my new fiscal year. And as a sales executive, what you get on that first Monday is your new territory, your new employees, and your new quotas. And again, I've been doing this for 20 years, so it was very standard fare. I wasn't expecting any surprises, especially because the year before I had just taken my third product from zero to over 100 million. We had just crossed $100 million in this new product. I was the VP over the go to market, and when we crushed it. So I get to the office that morning, and I hear my boss wants to see me in some, like if you have a job, right? Every conference room has a name, right? Conference room A, B, C, D, whatever it was named. And I remember thinking to myself, I have no idea where this conference room is. Like I've worked here 3 years. I don't even know where this one is. So I had to look it up, right? It's in the back corner on some other floor that I've never been to. So I go there. I was thinking, it's beginning of the year. There's no conference rooms available. So I didn't really think anything of it, but that should have been my first red flag. So I get in the room, I see my boss on one side, and then I see the VP of HR at the head of the table. And I'm like, shit. First thing I thought is, what did one of my employees do? Right? Did somebody get drunk and crash a car? Did somebody steal something? Like that was the first thing that went through my head as a VP and over, I don't know, 20 or 30 people, whatever it was. I'm like, God damn it, somebody did something. And then sure enough, my boss, who we didn't get along, but I didn't really care because, frankly, I had an ego and thought I was the man. Everything I touched turned to gold. And he let it be known that, I wasn't welcome there anymore. And I never sat down. So we went back and forth because he hated me and I hated him. So we both said some shit in that moment. And I stopped as I was just letting him have it. And I said, all right, just give me a package. I'll say nice things, you say nice things, and we'll call it a day. The whole thing probably in reality took 5 minutes. It felt like it was a half hour. Like I could replay it in my head in slow-mo, but I was not expecting it, right? I was 45 years old. I'd already told myself I was going to work for 50. I was addicted to my job. There is nothing like being the top 1% in your career. The ego, the rewards, all the shit that comes with it. You get invited to speak on crazy stages. 10,000 people would not be uncommon. So I was an egomaniac, and suddenly didn't have a job. So I walked back from the desk or from the conference room to my desk. I text my wife, Olivia, and I say I'm coming home. I don't work here anymore. And she thought I was kidding because she saw me that morning and I was ecstatic, right? We just crossed 100 million, 9 figures. I was going to get all kinds of, rewards and bonuses and stock options. It was going to be a good day. At least that's how I thought it was going to be. And it wasn't. And, so I go back to my desk. I take 2 or 3 pictures off the desk. I leave all the rewards, all the trophies, all that other nonsense on the desk. So they have to clean it up because I don't want any of that shit. And then I head home. And for 2 days, I am ecstatic. I smile so hard, my face hurts. I mean, I've never smiled so hard. Because again, it wasn't about the money. It was about the ego. And I didn't know it at the time. But now we get to the second part of your question. After 2 days, maybe it was the third day, I start getting depressed out of nowhere. Because again, I still get up at 5 a.m. I was up at 4:45 this morning. My body just wakes up. And I had no mission. I had no hill to climb. I had nobody to call, right? All my friends are still at work. And I start spiraling into what I now call a depression. I didn't recognize it at the time, but I was getting depressed, which is crazy. I mean, it's crazy to sit here and tell you that a 45-year-old financially free has no money concerns and he's depressed. I mean, it's crazy to say out loud, but I don't know what else to tell you. And my wife sees this because it gets bad. Week after week gets bad. So probably a month in, maybe 3 weeks, she says, enough's enough. We're going to Taiwan, which is where my wife's from. So we go to Taiwan for 3 weeks or whatever it is. And that proved to be a pivotal moment because I remember sitting in the back of a van with headphones on because I do not speak Mandarin. My wife does and her family does. And they're doing whatever they're doing. And I'm listening to Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin in 2018. And I remember thinking, wow, these guys are helping people. And they got like 3 units, 5 units. And I'm like, shit, I got, almost 200. And, by the way, I've been doing this for 20 years, right? I've seen some stuff. So I decided after that to create a YouTube channel just because I wanted something to do. We come back home. I sit at my kitchen table. I remember it was Saturday morning. And I told myself, Zuber, you're going to have to get a job. And I had crazy offers. I was being recruited almost every day. I had one offer at $500,000 total OTE on target earnings, another one at 450. I was offered 1% of a startup because again, I'd taken 3 products from 0 to 100 million. So very few people have done that. And I remember sitting there Saturday morning, not needing the money, but telling myself, if you don't snap out of this, you're going to get a job Monday. And as soon as I said that, as soon as I recognized that, I remember saying out loud, you're such a loser to myself because I didn't need the job for the money. I needed the job for the ego. And that's terrible. So from that moment, I decided to start writing my book one rental at a time and kind of the journey was there. But all I had to do was find a new mission. And, that's why I showed up. I showed up every day for 3.5 years. I recorded content for 3 years in a row every day, 7 days a week. Didn't miss a day, didn't miss Christmas, didn't miss New Year's. And that's just how I roll. And I'm so happy now. I think everybody needs a mission. And if you are lucky enough to be able to retire early, if that's your mission, I strongly recommend you start building something on the side. Because if I would have started building one rental at a time 5 years earlier, slowly, it would have been much, much bigger. And it wouldn't have felt like a hard lift. But yeah, it was supposed to be a great day that turned into a bad day that actually was a great day. Because I was working for the ego, not the money. So happy to go deeper, but that's the story of that eventful day in February of 18.
Before we get to maybe Gus's question and Lauren's question, Bridging Tenants does have a second part to that question. It says, and lastly, did you have to make any strategic adjustments to your portfolio to maximize cash flow for covering your lifestyle?
No, so did we have to? No. Did we? Yes. Probably 6 months into that, we rejiggered some debt. We got a few more assets free and clear. We sold one problem property. So nothing we had to do, but yeah, we did some small tweaks. We sold that one problem property, which was like 80% of our headaches. We rejiggered debt, which probably lowered payments a couple of grand. But yeah, small things that first year.
All right, Gus, you got any questions for Zuber?
So Lauren can go because she was at the event. I could go last. That's fine.
All right.
Yeah, my question about like the event next year is more about the speakers. Do you know, are you kind of getting a lineup of the speakers already? Because I feel like it's a long day. It's a lot of information. And I would love to like kind of mentally prep myself for, okay, I really want to hear this person speak. So I feel like getting a list of the speakers or at least time slots would be good.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get the full list. So am I working on that? Absolutely. Like you heard last year, I locked Pace Morby in the week after the event. It's just some of these people, that's how far you have to book them. So I've reached out to a couple of huge names that are in my Rolodex trying to lock down, because most of them have said, can't do that weekend because of my kid's school, right? I guess it's spring break or something. So there's one guy that I don't want to say his name unless I get him, that I'm actively working with. I don't think we're going to get him for the weekend, but hopefully we get him for Saturday, all day Saturday. And as soon as that locks in, I'll announce it. So I'm trying to get the headliners, which I'm trying to get one for each day. And then I will build around it, mostly with our community. I think that's a mistake I made last year. Again, calling it a mistake only in hindsight, right? I achieved the goal going in. I just think the goal was wrong. But I think we're going to fill it in. And one of the things that I'm thinking about is I have not done this. So year 4, I'll just put it out here. You guys tell me what you think. One of the things I'm thinking about doing is looking at our, like in the school group, we have, I think, 11 accountability groups. I'm thinking about finding 2 or 3 of those and giving them an hour. Like, for example, the one I'm most proud of is the ladies of ORAD, right? I don't think there's enough female voices out there, and it drives me crazy. That's why we had 2 killers in year 3. But we have a bunch of killers in our community. So again, getting, 4 ladies of ORAD or 5 or whatever the number is, you guys tell me, on stage for an hour, I think would be very, very powerful. Maybe out-of-state investing or, whatever. I want to shower more love on our community, and that might be because it's tough, right? Next year, also the days are shorter. We're going 1 hour less each day and no dinner, year 4. So the days are going to be shorter. So I have at least 1 less speaker both days. But that's something I'm actively thinking about. Let me know what you think in the comments or tell me, via message. I would love to get probably one each day, one of our accountability groups, multiple members. It has to be multiple members up on stage to talk.
Yeah.
And then for those of you new to my channel, you may not know who Lauren is. She is in the school community. She's my regular guest on Wednesday, but she also did an interview with Zuber recently, and I believe that might be coming out next week sometime. But I will put her YouTube channel also in the chat because she also interviewed Zuber. So go subscribe there, please.
Mhm.
That'll
And
be up Monday.
all right, cool.
Nice.
So I'll put that in the chat. But Gus, do you have anything for Zuber?
Yeah, so and I want to thank you for putting it through the school program for us to be able to watch it live. So even though I wasn't there, I was able to, and I was looking at people in the audience saying, "Oh, yo, I seen him on the Zoom call. I seen him." So it was cool to be able to do that. I think one touching part of the whole ceremony was there was a gentleman, and he talked about his situation that he, I think he got sick at some point, and him and I believe it was his wife. I may
Correct.
be wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
No, you're right. Yeah.
And that right there hit for me, at least, just being able to watch that and seeing your reaction to it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, what is one of your greatest achievements with the community from a member? You know, with that one to the side, because I got to see that. What would you say holds close to your heart as one of the members and their growth?
So I guess I'll answer it two ways. So the only show, or the only, I don't know what to call it, a half hour that of year 3 that will be on the public world or YouTube is the award ceremony. I've said this before the event, and it'll be true at the next event. My personal favorite part of the 2-day ORAD event is recognizing, I think we had 11 people get awards, and they don't know they're coming. I make every effort to surprise people that they're going to get a belt, because it's not lost on me that, one rental at a time is not Mike Zuber. Yeah, I might be at the top. My name may be on the book. But at this point, you all should realize it's all of us. I'm trying to create an army of folks like Mark and all these other people that carry the message forward. Because again, guys, you can't forget my goal is to have something that outlives me by 50 years. That hasn't changed since day one. And it won't change. If it ain't changed by now, it ain't changing ever. So that's the mission I'm trying to do. But as far as most consequential in year 3, it was actually the teenagers. So I don't remember when I did this. I want to say it was with 2 months left in tickets. I said, hey, if you have a teenager coming, let me know and you can bring them for free. And then I just said it in passing. And like 5 or 6 people reached out, said, great, I'd love to bring my son or daughter or both. And I'm like, cool, let's do it again. And I think ultimately we had 21 or 22 teenagers there. And it was just an off the cuff thing. And I'm like, oh my God, we got to do something for them. So I had Dylan and Cody, who were my Gen Z, who were my opening speakers, day 1, day 2, take all of the teenagers upstairs to the VIP room for what I thought would be an hour conversation. Best case, I thought it would go an hour. It went 2.5 hours. So we're making a difference. And it was so good. One of the things I am actively working on, for example, I reached out to Scott Trench, the former CEO of Bigger Pockets, to try to partner with me on this yesterday, maybe the day before. My days blend together. In the last 48 hours, he and I talked. And we're talking about doing a 4-hour, different part of the building, ideally 50 teenagers. Because if I can get 13 to 18-year-olds involved now, the chances of me hitting my goal of outliving me by 50 years are pretty good. So, Gus, probably the most meaningful thing for me was to see this teenager just flyer land and exceed my expectations. And nobody's going to see that because that wasn't recorded. We got some pictures, but none of the content was recorded. It was a separate part of the room. But yeah, shout out Cody, Dylan, and also Cody's wife, Ashley. Ashley was there. She's had her own rentals before she was married. She's a military veteran, and Ashley holds her own. So it was, that was the most meaningful thing for me. I was like, wow, there's something here. And, we got to do more. I think all of us could do more to help, Gen Alpha or whatever they're called.
I talked to Logan, who was one of the teenagers there, and at the lunch that we had, and he was lit up. He was loving it, every second of it. And Chris, his dad, was going, but he was like, taking off work. But then when he was like, his son was asking him to go, and then while we were there watching their interaction, he's asking questions about like what APR is and just like being in that environment and feeding. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible to see him light up, ask these questions, and be in this environment. And then just like the building of the relationship too is an aspect of it where I was just like, beautiful father son building, teaching, growing together. I was just like, wow, this is really cool.
It's funny you said that. I saw a mother and two twin daughters in the lunchroom at a little bit of time with them. Same thing. One of the daughters it was the very first question asked the event, right? Talk about a ballsy teenager. She got up there and asked the very first question on the day one of Cody. And yeah, we made a difference. Again, sometimes I have these, like, I'm a very much ready, fire, aim guy. I do not spend a lot of time. I just believe in execution. And sometimes things don't land. This landed. It landed, and we're going to do it again. And we're going to do it bigger. And we're going to do it better. And we're going to do it for free. I'm going to fund it all. I want 50 teenagers there. I will pay for them. I will feed them. I will put together the agenda. And yeah, I'm not messing around. We're gonna help that next generation.
So everyone here, let's just stay tuned for the second half of the live stream. And one of the teenagers who did attend the event will be jumping on with us. But I do see Cody Davis in the chat who kicked off day one. He did put a super chat in, but he says could be fun to play Monopoly with teen groups in 2027.
Yeah, we could play Monopoly, or, I mean, I have the cash flow game over there. I think I have another one at my house. We could probably scrounge up 10 games and play Rich Dad, Poor Dad's cash flow game. If you could unlock that game, that might be the thing.
I still play that game with my friends. We have regular game nights where we play cash flow just to remind ourselves.
Yeah, it's important, right? So I might ask some of you to travel with your game, because those games are expensive, right? I think they're $200 or something. So I don't really feel like buying 10 of those. We may ask some people to travel with them or ship them or something. But yeah, I think we might do that. Maybe. Yeah, it might be fun.
All right. I have one. I can bring it. Lauren mentioned Chris Wissing. So he's also here in the chat. He also has a new YouTube channel he started, and he's actually showing some of the construction and work he is doing with his son, Logan. So I'll put that in the chat.
That's awesome.
But he says, how do you get comfortable in the direction you're going? For instance, the first 5 to 10 years, and that is also the window in which we're wanting to step out of the W-2.
For me, and it's funny, Lauren and I talked about this, so it sounds like that video is going out tomorrow on her channel. So make sure you subscribe to that. Right or wrong, I did not have big goals. And this is really a big difference between, again, I'm trying to look back at myself in year 1 and through 5. And when I talk to people in year 1 and year 5, I never had crazy goals, Chris. My goal was 4 units, and I wrote about it, and I talk about it all the time. And frankly, I gave myself 5 years because my job was, again, I thought my job was to work till I was 65, have 4 free and clear homes, and be, have a retirement better than most. When that's your goal and that's your timeline, you don't really feel stressed, right? It's like, I'm going to get one every 14 months. And, the other thing Lauren and I talked about was how we started saving money, how we cut down on our expenses, and how our friends made fun of us, and how I had an emotional breakdown driving home one time. So again, stay tuned for that video tomorrow. But we sometimes add pressure to ourselves that we don't need. And I think that's the biggest difference between what I experienced and some of you are. You're maybe looking at me today with 100 and whatever it is, 75, 180 units, whatever it is. And you're like, how can I get there that fast? I don't want you to think that way. I want you to think 4. And if you happen to get to 4 and you so desire, then think 10. This is not, I keep telling people, Dion has the life most of us want, and that's done with 18 units. So the first thing I would tell folks, and again, I'm just responding off the cuff, is stop adding extra pressure. Life is hard, right? Think about Fred, the pastor, who talked about, what was it? Faith, family, fitness, and finance, right? The 4 F's. If we give too much focus on real estate, we become unbalanced and other stuff unravels. And, give yourself some grace, set a target, and don't try to get to the end of the game, too quickly. Enjoy the journey. Know that wealth takes a decade. And Yeah, I would tell most people put less stress on yourself.
All right. Ray, I just muted you real fast, Ray. Every once in a while, you got some background noise kicking in. But before I get to Ray's question, there is one in the chat from Rick Freeman. He says, do you see stagflation as a potential outcome for the U.S. economy in 2026?
Yeah, stagflation is the boogeyman that I'm still concerned about. Absolutely, especially after we got GDP and PCE last week. Stagflation has always been something I've looked at for multiple years. I thought, honestly, we'd gotten past it. But given that PCE popped up, right, went to 3%, so inflation is rising. The GDP was a horrible number at 1.4 or 1.8, whatever it was, way below expectations. Yeah, stagflation is a real threat. It's probably more real now than it was in 25. It's a real threat, and yeah, it's something I'm going to keep a watch on. I think that's it actually might even be the most likely outcome, right? It's not, it's not over 50%, but I mean, if you look at all the possible outcomes for 2026, you got to put stagflation, double digits possible, 20, 25, 22, something like that percent. It's non-zero for sure.
And what do you think the effect is going to be from that if we
It's going to be basically what will happen in the stagflation environment is the Fed's going to have to choose which one they fight. Do they fight inflation or do they fight jobs? And at the end of the day, I believe every Fed president worth their salt will fight jobs first. They will say inflation be damned. We're going to fix the job market, the labor market. Because if you let the labor market go, you talk Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if the Fed's backs go to the wall, they will say silly things like, the economy is so advanced and technology productive and blah, 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 blah. We no longer need 2%. We can survive with 4%. I'm just making those numbers up to say how ludicrous the talk will be. But they will excuse away the inflation and whack rates to save the job market. So if stagflation becomes like if it gets to the whites of their eyes, they will cut and they will go after saving the job market. That's my belief.
I see Jeff Dombach, who was at the event this year, with a $9.99 super chat, and he just says, use this towards support the program for the teens of ORAT.
I appreciate that.
So thanks, Jeff. Ray, you have any questions on your list right now?
Yeah, I think my big one is, I've always been a big believer in following my passion, right? One of the things when I started my journey, in the workforce, I didn't last long in the corporate world. I did about 10 years in sales, and then I went straight into just being an entrepreneur. And I think my question for you, Zuber, is I always feel I want to enjoy what I'm doing, right? Yeah. And when it comes to my portfolio, I want to have fun doing it, or I don't want to do it at all, right? So I guess my question is, how important is it to enjoy the investing aspect of your portfolio as well, And do you think that people should follow that their investing should be fun, and it should be something that they're pursuing? I don't know. I
get it. Right. I love that. I love the multi-layered question. And let me say this. I didn't say this at the open. I look forward to doing more calls like this with all of you and all of our community, because you guys can ask me deeper questions. The fact that you guys know my book and know my story means that you can all go deeper with me. So thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes to Mark. I hope to do these at least once a month, so you can expect more of these. I love answering questions from my community because I think it makes me think deeper, and hopefully it lets the audience know more about me. So thank you for being here Sunday morning. And you guys are doing this on my schedule. It's not lost on me that you're doing this because, I'm free from 8 to 10 on Sunday. So thank you for being here. But back to your question. I think I got to be really careful with the word fun, right? Because again, people define fun differently, and lots of life is a vocabulary thing. Was my real estate investing fun for me? Well, yes and no. What did I enjoy doing? I enjoyed the hunt, and I enjoyed negotiations. I don't enjoy operations, right? Running a portfolio of even 10 units or 100 or more, not a lot of fun. That said, I'm lucky enough, and Lauren and I talk about this again, the video out tomorrow. I was lucky enough with Olivia to divide up the labor. And guess what she finds fun? The details, the operations, the weeds. So I was very fortunate to have a partnership, much like Lauren talks about in the video I did with her that I think comes out today, about finding a partner who's, ham and eggs, right? You guys really fit together. So I was natural that Olivia and I clicked like puzzle pieces. So I did have fun. One of the reasons I had a buy box and looked every day for 3 years is because that was my fun. I enjoyed getting up and going, oh, nothing changed, and knowing nothing changed. That was fun for me for whatever reason. I am that broken. And then every once in a while, something would swim across me like, oh, that's new, that's different. What's that look like? Well, wait, that was fun for me. And then negotiation was fun for me. Operations, zero fun. In fact, negative fun. But again, so I do think there was some fun in building this. And I still have fun doing both those things, hunting and negotiating. That said, I do think we need to remember the bigger question I think you're going for is we only have one life. And I think we all forget that too often. And the other thing that we forget too often is it could be gone in a blink of an eye. I mean, we're reminded of tragic events all the time where somebody had so much ahead of them and it's taken away by a tragic event or a health thing or whatever. We have no idea. And so I do think that we should chase our passion and our interest, but we should also pay our bills. And the last thing I'll say is it has never been easier to take your passion, what really fires you up, and create meaningful income. Now, I'm not talking billionaire stuff. I truly believe if you love something today, you could build a 6-figure income. It's going to take work. It'll take consistency. It'll take learning, but you can do it. And, I think that's awesome. I do not think it's ever been easier to be a solopreneur. With the technology at our hands today, I think more people, in fact, I think the largest outcome of AI, this is kind of counterproductive. I think everybody looking at AI being job destructive is missing the point. I think we will have more solopreneurs with AI, and that will be a net positive because we will once again be focused on what we love. I think AI will be the great unlock for the solopreneur in the next decade to do what their passion is. And that's going to be magical, in my opinion. So hopefully that helped, Ray. And if it didn't, ask again.
No, that was definitely helpful. I think the biggest thing that I resonate with, your strategy is I can resonate with just the 4 rentals, right? Because I'm not like a lot of people. Like, I'm not trying to escape the W-2, right? And for me, I love what I do, but I have a feeling I'm gonna love what I do even more when I don't have to do it. You know what I mean?
You will. I promise you will. Yes.
And that's the one thing that I always tell people because I don't care to have that many doors. Honestly, if I could just have the least amount of doors, because I don't want to deal with all these roofs and all these sidings. When people say they have 20 doors, it scares the crap out of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think most people should get to 4. I've said it since day one. It's in Coach Carson's book. He quoted me talking about getting to 4 small and mighty investors. I think that's the right number. I mean, if you choose to go past 4, that's on you. But I think everybody will be better at 4.
Well, thank you. I don't want to take too much time.
No, it's good. Thanks, Ray.
And to Ray's point, if people aren't familiar who Ray is, he also runs the short-term rental call on Saturdays in the school community with Chris Price. So go check that out. I see Josh Burdick put a super chat in, and I do have maybe this might because Anna Kelly is always a fan favorite, and I know February is always a tough time for her with her kids' schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But Josh is asking, any chance Anna Kelly speaks next year? I feel like she brings a lot to ORAT. And another name that was mentioned in the chat was Bruce Norris, because you give a lot of thought to Bruce Norris. But what about those?
Yeah, so Anna Kelly, no lie, was my very first text. I actually texted her at the event on stage once you guys agreed to January. So the good news is her daughter does not have gymnastics in January, but her son has hockey, right? Her job is kids and I'm not taking that away from her. So she absolutely said that she'll be there if she can, if the kids just don't have any hockey that weekend. She does say it's unlikely. But yeah, of course I want Anna Kelly. And frankly, folks, Anna wants to be there as well. But, priority number one is for her kids. Her oldest daughter is about to get out of the house and go to college. So she'll be left with 2, and she's not going to miss any of those times. So yes, of course, we all want Anna Kelly to be there. Unfortunately, year 4 is probably unlikely. Bruce Norris is an interesting one. I did reach out to him yesterday. It might've been, what is today? Today's Sunday. I reached out to him yesterday, Saturday. He's not doing a lot of travel anymore. He's getting up there, but he and I are talking. We do know each other pretty well. So all I can say is I'm trying. We'll see.
Gus, you have anything on your list of questions right now?
Yeah, I'm just going to change, I guess, a little bit as far as direction we're going. So I saw posted in school the conversation with Dylan and Brian. I believe there was like 2 parts of it. Interesting conversation back and forth again.
Sure.
They did a wonderful job. I watched the whole thing through. It was an interesting thing to watch. So that leads me to, where it stemmed from. And that was the conversation with you, Brian, and Ryan.
Correct.
Now, I've talked to some community members, just shooting the shit. And I think it'll be good for me to go ahead and ask you, Mark teed me up. He said, ask any question, bring your best question.
Let's go.
Before you went into that conversation, did you know that conversation was going to go that way, or were you caught off guard?
I was drastic. I mean, Ryan and I had spoken ahead of time, and we had planned one conversation. So I came loaded for one conversation, and about 8 minutes in, it went completely off the rails, in my opinion. And you could probably watch that video. If you know me well, I get pretty red. Probably 3/4 of the way. I was pissed because that wasn't what we agreed to, right? I don't need a lot of prep for a podcast, right? I've done hundreds, not thousands of them, but to go a completely different direction without warning was somewhere between insulting and not cool, right? I'll let you be the judge. But, I went home that day pissed. But after the video got posted, I actually loved the responses. So I actually went from being pissed for 48 hours to like, shit, this actually was pretty good. It caused a new conversation that frankly, I didn't know it needed to be had. So sometimes, bad things turn into, sweet memories. So I'm happy it happened, but was I surprised? Hell yeah, I was surprised. I felt set up. I don't know if the setup was on purpose. It certainly felt like it because that was nothing like we talked about. So yeah, I was pissed.
Do you think there will be a part 2 to that?
There will be if I want it. I'm not sure I want it, but there will be if I want it. I mean, again, yeah, if I want it, it'll happen. I needed some time, but I won't be caught off guard next time. Or I'll just get up and leave or something because that was not cool.
I do see a comment in the chat. Is from Dunning-Kruger YT. It says, general question. How can I help folks and keep my anonymity? I love chatting inside ORAT, however, don't want a public presence.
Keep chatting with your, I'm going to guess that's a nickname or something. Yeah, I mean, it's a little harder. I think what you'll have to do is you have to do it consistently because I think we naturally, at least I naturally, don't pay much attention to nicknames or things that are clearly not someone's name. I think the people that come in with their real name, it just means more, right? Because you can hold that person accountable. But I think if you are consistently, part of the conversation, people will pick up on it. I mean, I do the daily financial news live, which most of you watch either live or on recording. And you can watch the comments. I would say 50% of the comments are from nicknames or non, legal names. And I think most of the people know, goodness. So, I mean, the lumberjack, why is he called the lumberjack? Because he didn't want anybody in his company to know. So, he doesn't even talk about his last name. So yeah, it's you can certainly do it. You just got to be. I think you have to be more purposeful and more consistent, and probably do it for longer. But it certainly can happen.
I see Emily Lopez on Instagram. She'll be joining us in the second hour, but she said there's a whole anonymous Instagram I follow on financial independence, and it's huge. So people are doing it under kind of being anonymous.
You certainly can.
But also Dion's video that you folks did, the Three Amigos. Dion also recommended for those that do attend the event, make sure you introduce yourself maybe with your handle, right? Because sometimes you introduce yourself with your real name and they're not sure who they're talking to.
Yeah, you gotta, so that's actually a good point, because you know, right or wrong or different. This is how a lot of those interactions go, right? You come up to Matt, Dion, or myself, and you see us seemingly every day. We don't. It doesn't go the other direction, right? So I've had plenty of conversation with people that really feel like they know me, and that is awesome. I love that. But just give me a little, right? So I know who you are, right? So I can leap to where you are, because sometimes I feel bad. I'm like, dude, you interact every day, but I don't know that unless you tell me your name, right? The whatever the YouTube name. So little help, please. Little help.
AB, the elder Gen Z, says, "Good morning. What advice do you have for couples and families about balancing a W-2 REI and making sure they have time for what is actually important, a healthy marriage and enough family time?"
Yeah, the first thing I would tell you to do is, if you are part of school, is go watch that presentation from Fred, the pastor, talking about the 4 F's: faith, family, fitness, and finance. It's all of that for a good life and a good marriage and a good all that. The thing is, I see a lot of people, especially in real estate, get unbalanced. And it's funny, I just talked to Fred yesterday. We were catching up, and the order is important to him, which I did not pick up on at the event, right? Faith, family, fitness, finance. Finance is last. For whatever reason, and you probably picked up on some of this with Dion and Brian's conversation, people get unbalanced because they focused on the last F, finances, especially if you're doing this game to replace your income. That's not my game, guys. My game is get to 4. My game takes a decade. Don't rush it. You don't have to, do a deal in 1031 and do all these other, no, it's just part of the puzzle of life you are building. And if you don't add additional stress and you just realize it is one of the things you do in this beautiful world that we call life, that's how it should be. I think we get off the rails, especially in real estate, especially with money, when we make that final F the most important thing. And let's be clear, you'll hear this in Lauren's story. Lauren asked questions about why I did this thing. And I was very much money insecure, right? I had a job at 12 under the table working in a toxic dry cleaner because I needed money for stuff at 12. I worked every day except Christmas for almost 10 years because I had 3 different jobs, right? I was unbalanced. So, if you're in school, lucky enough to be in school, not join, and watch that conversation with Fred. It was day 1 morning. You just got to remember it's all of those. Not one is more important than the other. And I think people get it wrong when they make one more important than the other. Like, I'm going to focus on finances now for the decade, and then everything else will come into play. No, you're going to lose your family, will lose your faith, and your fitness will be crap, right? It's not okay. So it's a beautiful thing that we have this life, and realize that all of those are important, not one of them.
Before Lauren maybe ask a question, I do have a text message directly from Chris Wissing. He says, "Lauren, thank you for the kind word as well. That left him a bit speechless and humbled. And he's forwarding it to his son Logan right now since he's actually sleeping."
Damn Gen Z or Gen Alpha sleeping still.
So, Lauren, do you have any question for Zuber right now?
Yeah, my question is a little bit about the behind the scenes, because it's not very often you go to an event like this and you get to then talk to the person who put the event on.
Yeah.
And I used to do events back in the day, and there's like, there's people on stage, there's dinner happening, there are all these things happening, and then like behind the screen there's a fire going on, and you're like quietly putting it out, and then you have to just be composed and calm. Like, what was it like putting on an event like this?
Well, the first thing I want to acknowledge is year 3 was a lot better for me because I asked for help. I shouldn't say that. I was demanded that I take help because I don't ask for help very often. I did year 1 and year 2 basically solo. I didn't really accept help. Year 3, I grew up and accepted help. So I want to acknowledge Jen, her husband, Kenny, and others for completely taking over the check-in process. Other than sending them a spreadsheet of names, I did 0 on the check-in, which is a huge time. Like they printed name tags and they did all that stuff.
So year 1 and 2, you were checking people in.
Well, yeah. So I set up the process and all of that. And then somebody, handed out the name badges, but I did all of that extra stuff.
Yeah.
And then I want to shout out Matt, the lumberjack, for this year. He controlled the podcast room, which was another nightmare that I tried to do by myself, because not only am I trying to control the agenda for the main stage, but then I'm trying to juggle the podcast room. And that was just stupid and idiotic. I did that for 2 years. So a lot of people helped remove things this year. They frankly demanded, which was, I was finally able to say, yes, please help me. So, I don't know if that's maturity or experience or luck. But year 3 was a lot better because I took the 2 biggest headaches, check-in and the podcast room, which meant I could just focus main stage, which was so much better for me. I was, the first 2 years my brain was probably going at 200% because, like you said, everything was broken and I've tried to keep it all together. Year 3, I was at 100%. I was like, okay, I can deal with this because I got one baby to watch. So that was a huge help. So year 3, from my standpoint, was so much smoother, less stressful, less chaotic, less firefighting. It was like control the PowerPoints, control the flow, control the time, good to go. So from my perspective, year 3 was 1,000 times easier than year 1 and 2 because I had help.
Nice.
All right, so we got a new group that will probably be joining us in about 15 to 20 minutes. So let's get some more questions from the people on right now. So Ray, do you have anything for Zuber?
Yes. One of the things that I love the most about the event is getting to come early, right? And one of the things for me, I'm a social butterfly, right? I love chatting with people, and I feel like I can get a chance to really get a one-on-one with people when I come early. I just wanted to know, Zuber, what are your thoughts on that, and really maybe taking advantage of that in the following year, and how we could do that?
Yeah, so I think coming early, and by coming early, I think flying in Thursday is a really smart idea. If I could wave a magic wand, it's not practical for everybody. I get it, but you're asking my opinion. I think making Thursday a travel day is really a smart idea. That way you level set, you get, on time zone, whatever. And there will be Thursday evening activities, I'm sure. But then the Friday ones, right? I would expect a Friday afternoon get together and a Friday evening get together. And if I have my magic wand, there will actually be a Friday evening VIP get together. I handed Mark that riddle to solve. So again, I'm asking for help. Back to Lauren's point. I'm putting work on others now. I think coming in Thursday, because again, I think what I saw year 3 was really the growth of one rental at a time. Because I think we had 50% kind of new members, and it really felt like we were growing together. And I think a lot of it was, the conversations that happened outside the event. So I think that is extremely valuable, being there Friday for that. And hopefully next year we do something Friday evening is my hope. Again, Mark, the financial firefighter, owns that, not to put anybody on the spot, but he owns it. And he has a $5,000 budget. So we'll see what happens.
Can I just add this, for anybody who may be watching, right? We come there, I think Wednesday, Mark. I think a lot of us fly in on a Wednesday. And, there's so many things happening within the group that's Chester kind of put this crazy WhatsApp chat together, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people get the wrong idea that we're just out there partying together. But to be honest, we're actually going to awesome places where we can all chat. And sometimes you just need everybody's letting their hair down, putting their guard down, and then you're really hearing the intricate details of their portfolio. And I just think if you do come early, take advantage in meeting some of these awesome people, because it's hard to do it at the actual event. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the other thing I'll say is, again, shout out to the people that helped me, because I could not have done this year 3, back to Lauren's question, if I didn't have help with check-in and the podcast. I actually showed up. Mark, what was it, Thursday evening and Friday evening?
And Friday,
I showed up
Beer
twice.
Garden and Container Park.
Yeah, so I showed up twice, an hour. I was there an hour because I had other things to do. But I look forward to doing that again, assuming, nothing's on fire, right? If something goes fire with the event, I got to, reprioritize. But yeah, we had the event pretty wired by Thursday afternoon. So yeah, I came out Thursday and was there again Friday. So yeah.
Before Gus maybe asks his question, I just, I know a lot of people, sometimes they say, I don't want to go to Vegas. They don't like Vegas. They don't like all the other things. But to Ray's point, right? We're not really partying.
We're not on the strip.
Yeah.
No local goes to the strip. We don't go to the strip, right? The event's off strip. Right. Vegas. And I didn't know. And again, it's really funny. I've been to Vegas over 100 times, right? About 8 times a year for 20 years. Cause that's just where all the sales QBRs are, quarterly business reviews. And yeah, Vegas is so much more than just the strip. So yeah. You won't see me near a casino. Not a thing.
All right, Gus, you got a question for Zuber?
Yeah, as far as one of your headline speakers that you guys had, Pace, what would you say was your overall opinion about his session? And then when he mingled with the people, if he did, obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know if he did or not. What was he like off stage, conversational wise, things along those lines?
So kind of 2 answers. So first, Pace Morby showed up 1 minute before he was able to go on stage. And I think he was out of there 5 minutes after his speech was over. So not a lot of mingling. Clearly some pictures. I saw some on Instagram. He was very gracious. He delivered as requested. But he is such a big name now. Getting him for an hour or whatever after is impractical, right? It's not practical. And, I was again, Pace and I would call us friends. We communicate or text each other monthly. I know his wife, Laura, she was in my second book, right? So I know the Morbies. And I was happy. 'Cause again, I don't know if you guys know this. He actually said this. I secured him a year ago. And we're friends, and I secured him a year ago. I won't be getting Pace next year. Why? Because I think part of the magic of our events is the speakers stay. And by going after bigger and bigger names, I was losing control of that. And the magic of the VIP room and all of the serendipity that happened there was lost when, half the speakers bolted. Now, some because of Valentine's Day and all of that. But again, I lost some of the magic. So that's why I think we're going to make it more about us. Yes, I'll have a headliner day 1 and day 2, just because I like to capstone with new people. But I'm not chasing bigger names. We have plenty of rock stars in our community. I don't have to chase names. It's about people that are doing the work now. We can celebrate. I could put on a 3-day event just with ORAT members and feel great about it. And I just need to lean into that. So, message taken, message received there, for my opinion. But that said, Pace delivered. I think he is able to talk about anything and all things. I said on stage after he wrapped up, he gave me some of the most important words I've ever heard. And I mean that. And that's know thyself. And you got to remember that we had that conversation. I think we had it at like 4:30 a.m. because we're both early birds and nobody else is up. And he was hearing me bitch and moan and whine and, just suffering from comparison syndrome. You guys suffer that sometimes. I'm a human being. I suffer too. And he basically said, Zuber, shut up. You don't want my life. So stop comparing you to me, right? Your life's amazing. He just reminded me that what we have and what we're doing, and I'm having fun. And he's like, just know yourself and, stop this comparison thing. So I will always give him credit for that kind of slap across the face because it meant everything. And I will never forget that he delivered those very important words to me when I was in a moment of crisis. So yeah, I think Pace delivered, but again, not really happy that he came in 1 minute early and was gone 5 minutes later. But again, that's what was promised, and he delivered. But I think our community deserves better than that, and we will make sure other speakers don't do that next year.
Before any of you have maybe a final question for him, like I said on an earlier live stream, I do appreciate that Jason Hartman was there for both days, the headliner, right? So
even Rob Abasola, he was there most of day 2, right? He flew in day 2, but he was there through lunch. So again, it wasn't everyone, but I missed. My goal for year 3 was achieved, but it was the wrong goal, and I own that. So it won't happen again.
Lauren, you have a final question for Zuber?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so easy for us to have our takeaways when we get to like sit back and watch the event and see what impacts us. But what about doing these events like has the most impact for you?
That's a very good question. And I'm glad you asked it, because year 3 was different for me. And it was probably back to your earlier question, because I wasn't juggling 17 fires. So I could kind of live in the positivity of our community. And I really felt year 3 was different. And I think it's absolutely because I wasn't controlling 17 fires, and I had mental bandwidth to just absorb all the goodness that is our community. So year 3 felt amazing to me. It felt like, showing up every day and, 17,000 videos and, all of these things that is what we've done is working. The teenagers worked, right? We're celebrating people doing 1 or 2 deals. We're celebrating our community, right? We had Jared, Brandon, Ryan, and Keisha. We got to do more of that. The award ceremony meant a lot. Dude, somebody, 2 people made me cry. What the hell is that all about? I don't cry. Why are people making me cry? So, yeah, year 3 I will always remember year 3. I think year 3 even is better than year 1. And year 1 was amazing. Year 3, and I think it's to your point, Lauren, and it just connected because I wasn't doing it solo and, fighting 17 different fires simultaneously. So, yeah, I loved year 3. I'm still glowing because of year 3, the conversations and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, before I go, Mark obviously was my introduction into this community and sort of bullied me into it.
You're gone now. I'm going to take you off screen now.
Mute.
But so glad that he did. And honestly, I think this is part of like Mark's superpower too, is like even at the event, like there was Curtis had made this big WhatsApp group chat, but Mark knew there was no way I was going to look at that, like 80 text messages. I'm not going to go back and scroll through that. Yeah. So he was texting me separately, like, oh, we're going here. This is what we're doing. And it's like, the community has this special sauce, this secret je ne sais quoi of members that care so much and are so involved. And I came a few days early and did some of those events leading up to it, which I'm so glad that I did. So much value in those off-site events that are leading up to it. So that by the time you get to the conference, you really like know people, you have community, and you're there learning and listening to the speakers, and you've already established these connections. But the community of ORAT is different. I mean, I've been to Bigger Pockets events, I've been to other real estate investment communities, but this one is different. And it's the only one that I really say that about. Like Bigger Pockets is a great production. It's awesome, great speakers. But the community of this event is unlike any other one that I've been to. And it's really awesome. So I'm glad that Mark got me into it.
Yes, not say bully. But Lauren, thanks for joining us for this first hour. Like I said, everyone, please go subscribe to Lauren's YouTube channel. She's going to have a video with Zuber coming on, and she'll be on Zuber's channel, I believe, next week. But thanks for doing this, Lauren, and I will bring in some of the other people.
Thanks, guys.
Later.
Okay. Yeah. Ray, Gus, you got any final question for Zuber?
Yeah. I think one of the big things that I kind of chatted with people before the actual event kicked off, a lot of people were telling me the word balance, right? Oh, I want to balance my life. I want to balance my portfolio and stuff like that. And I want to get your take, Zuber, because I personally don't like the word balance. And the reason why is because I feel it makes you think that you can keep things perfect forever. And I like the word harmony in my life because I feel you flow through life, right? You flow through getting your health good and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, vocabulary is such an important thing, and as a sales leader, one of the things you learn is most conversations break down around definitions and words, because what you mean by harmony, somebody else does this and balance. So what I kind of like to talk about here is seasons. You will have seasons of life where money is the most important. You'll have seasons in life where family is the most important. But the key to all of this, and that was really covered by Fred in our session, go watch it, was you have to know when something's unbalanced or breaking. And this is where I think most people go wrong, is when something is getting out of whack. We all feel like we have to continually move forward, where the right thing to do is just stop. Just stop and take a breath. Acknowledge where you are is unhealthy or not working or whatever. And then that will allow you to get more balanced or get into harmony. I think that the superpower I hope all of you to have is not necessarily being balanced or harmony, but to identify when you are out of balance or out of harmony, because that is the superpower, because then you could take action to get back. That's where I think we most of us, myself included, go wrong is we don't stop. We think more action leads to getting back into harmony, and that's almost never the answer. The answer usually is stop what you're doing, just get quiet, and go address the problem. That's where I think most people stay out of balance or out of harmony longer than they should.
All right, Ray. Thanks for always having great questions. Thanks for joining us. And we'll have the next group of people on now. So we have Emily Lopez joining us now. Curtis Garner, also known probably as PE turned RE. He also received a belt in Vegas.
He did.
We got Adam Dutter, Alex's son, one of the teenagers that attended the event. And we also have Joe Farrow will be jumping on. Hold on, let me get him in here. But yeah. All right. So do you guys have any questions off the top right now? Maybe Curtis, you got anything for Zuber?
Yeah. I always hear you say that this sequence is very important. What is the sequence you're thinking that for year 4?
So I think we're going to do, I haven't really, so like year 2 was couples, year 3 was Gen Z. I don't know just yet for year 4. My guess, my 90% guess, but it's not locked in yet, it's going to be the ORAT community. I think we're going to put out, I think we're going to sell it because we have so many amazing people that are awesome that I think you're going to see a lot more community members on stage. But I mean, it wasn't like they weren't on stage last time, right? We had Brandon, we had Jared, we had Ryan and Keisha on there. But I think next year, like, I would like nothing better, for example, to get the ladies of ORAT on stage, right? Get 4 or 5, whatever the right number is. They'll tell me on stage to do a whole session. Because again, I think we have and then we could get out of state investing, or we could get short-term STR or whatever. I would like to get, I would love to see 20 ORAT members talk next year. Now, you're not going to get the full 45 minutes, but we could get 4 or 5 people on a 1-hour panel, and we could do that 3 or 4 times. That's where I'm leaning right now. You'll probably see something locked in the next 30 to 45 days, because I'm already actively working on year 4, right? I've already made phone calls. I'm already trying to identify people to speak. And some people are asking their spouses, if they can. But yeah, it's that's where I'm leaning, Curtis. Thanks for asking.
Yes.
Joel, you have some sort of background feed on yours, I think. There's another speaker going on your end. But Adam, you were one of the teenagers that were able to attend the event. Tell us a little bit about it. And so we did interview you before the event. And so now, what was your takeaways and how was it for you?
Man, I actually learned so much. I went into it thinking, this is my dad's thing. We'll see how this goes. I talked to you guys a bit about that. I was excited to learn, but I wasn't sure how much I'd learn. And dude, I can't even begin to start. I mean, it was not only did I learn a ton, but I think I was inspired by every single story that's from the people that spoke. Like you can ask my dad, you could ask me actually. I've already done so much research into houses in my area right now, houses from my hometown, like things I can start doing to get the ball rolling. I might go in on a project with my sister. We'll see how that goes. We are just throwing a bunch of ideas around right now, trying to get started.
That's fun. That's pretty cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you very much.
Well, Zuber, did you have any questions for Adam maybe? Or his...
Yeah, so I've heard from Dylan and Cody. I guess I should ask Adam, were you part of that 2.5 hour sit down with Dylan and Cody, or were you off doing something else?
Absolutely. And I was super engaged, asking a lot of questions, getting the conversation rolling. It was a blast.
So that would be Mike. Cause again, I kept going in there like every 45 minutes, expecting it to be over, and it went for 2.5 hours, which was pretty cool. So just from being, the person asking questions, like, how did that feel, right? You had 20 other teenagers in the room. How do you think that session went?
I think it was great. Out of the kids that were in there, I was probably one of the older ones. So a lot of it seemed, I think the older the kid, the more real it seemed, if that makes any sense. A lot of these kids are still learning, and some of them, I think Dylan and Cody were both excellent speakers. They're the perfect people to have in there because they're just young enough that I relate to them enough. And then I think the next person next to me relates to me. And so there's some chain reaction going on. And I think, man, the information they had to share, I think Cody, his brain, I wish I could study it. Like he just
you and me too. You and me both.
And then Dylan as well. It's just such a impactful speaker. Like everything he had to say just like almost touches your heart. It's so powerful.
Cool.
I would love to sit down with both of them again sometime. That was awesome.
Yeah. So again, I wanted the teenage session was just a crazy idea out of left field. We ready, fire, aim. It worked. So I'm hoping to do a 4-hour full agenda, full speaker lineup just for teenagers next year. Hoping to get 50 teenagers next year. So look out for that. I may run this by you, as it comes together, just to see if you hits the mark. So stay in touch. We'll have to talk over the next couple months.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Emily, so this was your first time at the event, and did you have any takeaways or questions for Zuber?
I don't know if I have any event questions. I have general questions as we get to it, but I think specifically from the event, I don't think so. I would just say what he's saying, and I've noticed you guys talking about this, there's so much value in the community. Everybody I talk to at lunch, at my lunch table, short little conversations, everybody is doing something in such a different way. And so you talk to this couple who's doing it this way, and this individual who's doing it this way, and it's all working. And some of them have started recently. Some of them have been doing it for longer. And I just remember telling Dallas, my husband, I feel like everyone I talked to, if they were comfortable speaking, would have had something valuable to say if they were asked. And so I just think that's cool. Just talking to everyone, I got value and just little snippets of they're all making it work.
Before we get to maybe Joel, if he has any questions, there is a super chat from, where did it go? Our Escape the Rat Race journey. And it says, was the Gen Z session filmed? I'd love to make my teenagers watch it.
Unfortunately, it wasn't. It will be next time. This was a miss. I just didn't know how it would go. And frankly, a camera in front of teenagers actually that's a question for, a camera might have made it less practical, people being nervous. So the short answer is no, it wasn't recorded. Next year, the focused agenda, my hope is will be recorded, But the live Q&A and just the casual conversations, that will likely not be recorded because I think the intimacy brings value to that. So yeah, it was not recorded. Sorry.
All right, maybe Joel has a question, but Joel is also probably going to say I bullied him into coming to this event. But Joel, do you have anything for Zuber? Oh, you are muted. Hold on. There you go.
All right. I wouldn't say bully. I would say strong armed. I mean, my right arm is a
Held
little
hostage.
tight. Yeah. You know, I mean, I had so much fun at the event, and just looking back on it, you know, Mark doing these lives so consistently, everybody in the chat, you know, communicating and being active. I mean, that's the part that was just so amazing, is that you see people's names, see people's comments, and they're all scattered across the country. And then you get there, it's like you've known people for a long time. And the people, I've only been around for maybe 5-6 months in the community, but it seemed like people knew each other for decades, and it was just really cool to be a part of. And obviously the event was amazing. And I guess my question to you, Mike, is from a content perspective, you know, I look at the youngins, the Gen Z of the world. There's not many people that I see wanting to get into the game, and it's hard. It's not easy these days. But what do you, and going back to Pace's answer to one of the questions, you can't make somebody be interested. You can't make somebody want to do the work. What do you think it takes to be able to connect to Gen Z, doing more of what, or what is a community, or what can we all be doing, or what is the, you know, the players need to be doing to be able to impact that Gen Z demographic?
Again, you're asking a 53-year-old about Gen Z. So, you know, I'll give you my answer, but I'd love to hear from the community what they think. I think the secret to anything, and I don't think this is Gen Z or Gen Alpha specific, is most of them are operating. This is how it works in my brain. They're operating in a dark room, and you never know what the thing, the spark, the whatever it is to get the light switch on. Yeah. For me, you know, again, being a teenager, all I needed to know was when dad had money, he was happy. And when dad didn't have money, he was an asshole. So guess what I tried to do? I chased money my entire life because I didn't want dad to be an asshole. For others, you know, it was, you know, seeing, you know, a Ferrari. I mean, you never know what that spark is, but you're absolutely right. You cannot browbeat a teenager to do something, but you also need to encourage it. So one of the things, you know, that I think about is just continuing the conversation. Because again, you just never know when that spark happens. And the thing I would tell you is to keep trying. You know, my superpower is daily discipline and daily execution. And I'm not going to stop swinging the axe. I never know what swing's going to knock the tree over, but you know, I'm going to keep swinging. So I think you just got to keep at it and keep looking for that light switch. And, you know, someday it'll turn on. And then once it's on, you just let them go, right? You just gasoline and send them on their way.
I do see a super chat from Alex, the accidental investor, Adam's father, but he says, Zuber, thank you for providing the opportunity for me to share my passion for real estate investing with my son.
You're very welcome. Thank you for bringing him. It's all on you, right? I gave everybody access to free teenagers, and you know, coming for free, and about 20 of you said yes, and hopefully 50 of you will say yes next time. But yeah.
Another new school member, Hard Hat to Rentals, thanks for the super chat, says, Zuber, I'm loving the school content, buddy. Keep it up.
Yeah, the school community is amazing. So yeah, we're very lucky to have all the go-givers in there.
Curtis, do you got any questions? Were you expecting a belt, or what? Were you surprised by it?
No. I know. I was definitely shocked on that one. I was like, oh wait, that's me.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah. So kind of from a teaching perspective, because that's my day job, right?
Yeah.
Is 45 minutes multiple times is kind of tough for kids. And even for adults, right? You kind of start to see them start to move, or they wander, right? For the future, is there plans to kind of break it up, or have like smaller breaks instead of like, I don't know, 1 15-minute break, 5 minutes? So
yeah. So I've done events for the last 30 years, and not with teenagers. In fairness, the teenagers weren't a part of what I did in my day job, but the problem is when you insert a bunch of 5-minute breaks, everybody takes 10. and you just lose the agenda. So 5-minute breaks don't work. They just don't work. I like to do my goal is 2 sessions, break, 1 session, lunch. 2 sessions, break, 1 session, done. It doesn't always work that way because I have other, like I got to get different, like the tools panel and all of that there. But I'm very conscious of never more than 2 sessions before a break. But yeah, giving 5 minutes after every speaker would be a disaster. It would just be a disaster. So it's certainly very hard. The agendas, I spend 50% of my commitment to the event is the agenda. So I spend a lot of time trying to, Tetris that thing together as best I can. Yeah, it's tough. It's always hard.
Yeah. I think the great move that you did was you made it a 2-hour lunch. Because I was in the GA area, right? In that first hour, you're kind of talking to people, right? But it's really that second hour where people actually start to share what their real issue is, right? It took an hour for this lady to say, "Oh yeah, I've been trying to sell my house, but it won't sell. Why?" Right?
Yeah.
And like to actually get to someone's real thing that they're there for.
Yeah, the 2-hour, what was the 2-hour lunch and 2-hour dinner? Next year we'll not have dinner. Dinner's not happening day one. Too long a day. I hear you. I get it. Frankly, it saves me 15 grand. So kudos to me. So yeah, we're just doing 2-hour lunches next year and we're ending at 5. So we're also taking an hour off because it is a long day. We'll go 8 to 5 next year, except for VIP. VIP gets an extra hour for Q&A. But yeah, lunches will always be 2 hours for that exact reason. I think the power of our community is those just conversations you have at tables and mingling around and talking to other people. So that's not changing. They will always be 2 hours.
Adam, do you have any questions for Zuber now after returning from the event?
Questions, no, but I definitely have some. I just want to circle back to Joel's idea. How do you get Gen Z engaged? As a Gen Z, I can tell you, I did not want to listen to a word my dad had to say. However,
there's some honesty.
However, when his friend said it, suddenly, that made sense. You know what I mean? And then, his friend's friend says it, and it just kind of starts to click the more other people say it. And then, like Zuber said, constant reminder, that daily discipline, the bringing it up all the time. There's not a single time that I visit my dad and he does not talk about real estate. But when we do talk about real estate, it starts to get the ball rolling again and again and again and again. And over time, it started to make more and more sense. So that's huge.
Cool.
Yeah. As far as questions go, maybe circle back. I think I'll come up with something.
All right, Emily. Just want to let everyone know I did put Emily's YouTube channel, Curtis's YouTube channel, and Joel's channel in the chat. So if you haven't yet, please go subscribe. But Emily, did you have any questions for Zuber?
Can it be a not event-based question?
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
I'm here for anything.
So I hear, and we hear people say this all the time. Yeah, it worked 13 years ago. It worked 20 years ago. You don't know what it's like to be starting out right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to frame this question. If you were, this kind of to the younger crowd, but not all the way, maybe you're 21, 22. You just finished school or a trade program, but you're not old enough that you have a retirement you can pull from to make an investment. You're making 50, 60 grand a year.
Sure.
How do you start? How do you start from that point?
Yeah. If again, I would trade. I would take everything I have right now and trade with Adam in a heartbeat. He can have all my net worth and everything I have to be his age. What I would go do is do the 4-3-2-1 strategy. I would be financially free by I'm 28. So what is that? I would bust my ass. I had 3 jobs at 18. I would save, 5, 10, 15 grand because it only takes 5% down, and I would buy a 4-plex. And I would house hack the 3 units, and I would probably have roommates in my unit. And then I would buy a triplex 2 years later. And then I would buy a duplex 2 years later. And then I would go buy a house. So by the time I'm 28, I would have a 4-plex, a triplex, a duplex, and a house, all with 5% down. I would still have to live below our means. I wouldn't buy my stupid $40,000 car when I made 28 grand. And yes, I did that. And, I would not do debt other than real estate. I think debt is what kills kids, right? School tuition kills kids, that debt load. So I mean, this is crazy. I never said this before. I would probably not go to college. Not probably, screw it. I would not go to college, right? I had no interest in being a lawyer, doctor, engineer. I was a sales guy. You don't need a college degree to be a sales guy. And I would just bust my ass. I would skill up on AI, and I would just do the 4, 3, 2, 1. And by the end of that, I'd be financially free. I'd certainly be financially free by 30 instead of 45. It'd be a much better life.
I do see Jim, the grumpy contractor here. He'll be going in school soon with the contractor accountability call. But he says or asks, what was your main purpose of your time that you were flipping houses?
Oh, this is just the honest answer. I was bored. It was 2018. I just became financially free. I saw all these deals running around. I had people throwing money at me, right? Because I had done private money before, and I had lots of people throwing millions of dollars at me, or not lots of people throwing millions, but a collection of $1 million thrown at me. So yeah, I started flipping houses in 18. I did 56 before it got too hard and stopped. But yeah, the short answer, I was bored. I spent probably, oh man, it was not very, I mean, again, when you have a team and you have a buy box, I mean, it was just easy for me. I didn't spend a lot of time doing it. So, and I did it different, right? I didn't do it to grow. I did it to turn ugly properties in neighborhoods into the best. And then I put a tenant in and I sold to a landlord, right? Today, those are called turnkey. I didn't know what they were called when I was doing them, but I did that everything from houses. I even did that to a 6-unit disgusting slumlord building. It took about a year, but I turned that around and sold it as well. So the short answer, I was bored. I made over $1 million too, but I was bored. That's the real answer.
Joel, you have anything?
Nope, I can't hear him.
There you go.
One more time.
Yeah. Speaking of Jim, kind of going back to like the content thing. Mark's been doing. I met Mark doing podcasting 4 years ago, 2022, end of 2022, and then guys like Jim, who may be older than you, Mike. I forget how old Jim is, but he starts putting out YouTube videos. Just the spark of enthusiasm and creativity. I love that. That's more of just a statement. I don't really have a question at this point, but I just coming back to the community is just amazing.
I want to echo that, and this sometimes just being around good people and good karma kicks in. There's probably 40 YouTube channels that exist because of one rental at a time, right? Prodding people, poking people, pushing them. But they're all doing it the right way. They're not chasing dollars or clicks. They're chasing impact. If you want to grow fast, you talk doom and fear. If you want to grow slow and be impactful, just document what you're doing. And for me to sit back and think that I'm responsible for 40 YouTube channels is one of the coolest things I could think of. So let's be clear. I hope another 40 start. There are people in our community that have 1 or 2 units. You should document your story now, because in a decade, you're going to look back and go, holy shit, I did that. Start, have fun. You don't need the money. So just chase impact and have fun. Don't edit videos. Don't get lost in the tech. Literally. I mean, Mark knows this. We talk every, Friday morning or Thursday or whenever that is, Thursday?
Thursday, yeah.
We get on. I ask him, what's the first question? I think for 5 seconds and I do my intro and we just roll. And then we stop and I post it. Stop overthinking the tech. I think in a world where AI is going to quickly dominate this, our way of doing this is going to be the way of the future. So I hope another 40 start this year.
To that point, Dion did put a comment in the chat earlier saying that we should do a live comment section review in Vegas next year for the event, as to see your live reaction to the comments.
That'd be fun. Yeah,
But Adam, does that hit home as far as maybe starting a channel, as Zuber just mentioned?
Yeah, and I have a question that relates a little more to the starting side of things. I didn't want to ask the same question. Like I heard at the event asked a couple times, like, if you could do it all over again, where would you start? My question is, what skills do you think I should prioritize before making my first deal in order to be making that decision out of a point of strength and not emotion or necessity?
So I'll give you an answer that I've never given before. So the first one is you got to be able to calculate. You got to do basic math. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just telling you the answer. You have to be able to articulate what an average deal is. And for me, that's called yield. Some people call it cash on cash. Some call it return on capital. I really give a shit what you call it. You have to be able to tell me how hard your money's working. And that takes math. And it's not hard math. It's addition, subtraction, and division. But you got to understand that. And more importantly, you got to be able to talk about each piece intelligently. And you have to be able to, like, your dad should throw something at you like, what's closing costs? And you should be able to like this. And what's, make ready costs. And it just has to become second nature. If you can understand that basic formula and be able to talk about it for 5 minutes without slides, that's magical. Because I think that you make your money in real estate when you buy. All this other shit going on, you make your money when you buy. And to me, that is how hard is my money working. So that's priority number one, is understand the math. Because once you unlock the math, it doesn't matter where you go. It's the same math. So that's one. Number two, I think the most valuable skill for any human being, 15 to 55, is the ability to communicate. Now, communication comes in lots of forms. There's verbal, which we are doing now. There's written, right? There's storytelling. That's the only skill I got from college that I'm like, that made me $1 million. Was a public speaking class at a junior college I took when I was 18 years old. That one course got this. I mean, I don't know that it's obvious to you guys now, but I could have gone to an event like the ORAT session over the weekend and not said a single word to anybody and been happy. I was an introvert of introverts. And again, I would have been happy. I would have told you it was a great event because I would have just absorbed. I am not naturally an extrovert, but it was that public speaking class that unlocked $1 million future for me. So math and communication.
Before Curtis goes, I just want to remind everyone, I may not get to all the questions in the chat. So if you are in the school community, Zuber will also be going live in the school community at 10 a.m. Pacific, right? I believe, yeah, 10 a.m.
33 minutes.
Okay. Curtis, you got anything for Zuber?
Yeah, so I think Zuber and Emily and Joel, you guys all kind of talked about, okay, well, what advice would you have for the Gen Z? I may not look it, but I am technically the Gen Z. I'm just the elder Gen Z. One thing that I think that's a struggle for us is the understanding the time. Because you said go the 4, 3, 2, 1, right? Mm-hmm. But they're like, well, okay, but what's a couple $100? Like, and I think that came up in Brian and Dion's conversation too. Of it's just so slow. How can we better understand time? Because we know time is going to happen, right? Like we're going to age, but how do we really understand the impact of it?
Well, I think there's a couple of things there, right? Again, if you're 25 and I tell you it takes a decade, you're basically saying that's half my life. But if you're 50 like me and you say 10 years, that's 20%, right? So I have to acknowledge that time is not perceived the same by everyone. Because again, your life is different than mine. But, there's also truth in that the getting wealth formula hasn't changed in 100 years. It always takes a decade, unless you're a lottery winner or a sports athlete or whatever. It just always takes a decade. It's just hard for 20-year-olds to hear. But that doesn't make it not true. So the thing that we have to keep doing in this community is just continually keep reminding people. And that's why I think next year, back to one of the earlier questions about celebrating more of us on stage next year, because we have a lot of people in the suck, in the 3 years, in the 5 years, in the 7 years, right? They might see the daylight, but it's still not there. So getting them on stage just to talk about the real is something I should encourage. So yeah, it's tough for a 20-year-old to hear it takes a decade because that's half their life. The second thing, and this is the most important thing, and it happened with Brian and Dion, and it certainly happened with Ryan, Brian, and I, is you got to ask yourself what game you're playing. And I'm not here to tell you one game is better or worse. I just want you to acknowledge what game you're playing. Are you playing the entrepreneur game? Great. That's awesome. if that's what you want to do, awesome. If you want to be a W-2 employee like I was, awesome. Just know who you are, and then, act accordingly. Don't be an entrepreneur and then bitch about employee-like things, and don't be an employee and bitch about entrepreneur. Like, know who you are. And I think there's a lot of, like, the whole Brian and I's conversations just get lost in definitions. You're an entrepreneur chasing big checks because you got a lot of overhead. I don't got any of that. I whack 10 or 20% of my expenses and I get a lot of discretionary income, and there's my down payment. It's just a different way to live. I think social media wants there to be controversy, and you just got to know what you want to do. And I think that's true for 20-year-olds, and it's true for 50-year-olds. It's like, what do you want to do? Like, just declare it and move on.
Before we get to maybe Emily's question, Bitcoin Nick, Lead Pray Huddle's in the chat. He does have a question. I do a live stream with him on Saturdays. But he says, hey, Zuber, here is a fun question for you. What's more valuable in the future, owning assets or owning attention, brand, and audience?
Ooh. So if you talk about the masses, I think it's going to be owning assets. I think that's how most of us, that's just the wealth formula in a nutshell. The only way to be, because I think the middle class will continually be pushed or strained or collapsed or whatever you want to call it. And either you own assets or you don't. But to his real question is, a brand is an asset. That's the wrinkle, a hook. If you take the time now to build a brand, which I'm telling all of you to do, if you're year 1, year 2 into this, build a brand, because in 10 years you'll be amazed at what you have. And just real conversation. So I wrote a book in 2018 that was a bestseller. You guys may not realize this, but that book still sells 60 copies a month, right? That may not sound like a lot, but that's like $400 for something I did in 2018, right? That's almost $5,000 a year. And that's physical books, not even to mention Audible, which is like another $250. So again, when you build a brand and you document what you have, all this other income can come out of it. Just to give you one last example. And again, I'm not an entrepreneur like Brian and Ryan Pineda, all these people who have systems and funnels and all this other crap that just drives me crazy. I create 21 videos a week, 3 videos a day. I do that over 5 days from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's all I do. I do 15 hours a week. That's it. And out of that has now spun 18 different income streams. I have 18 1099s from different places. I made over $400,000 because of one rental at a time brand by accident. So again, a brand is an asset. So I would not separate those. I think a brand is an asset. So start building now, and you'd be shocked at what you have. I've been doing this for 8 years now. Like, the first year I made like $6, but I'll have to file a tax return for over $400,000 next year. It's crazy.
Well, speaking of brand, Emily Lopez has a great brand on YouTube. She has 2 YouTube channels. So I'll put both of those in the chat. But Emily, do you have a question right now for Zuber?
I will just tie into exactly what you were talking about, Zuber, to building a brand, because that is something I am working on, and I know some other people in our community are. And I've also talked to people, I agree with you, that say, well, I don't have enough. I'll wait. I need to start later. And I think they should document from the beginning. I 100% agree with when you said that. How do you recommend? Because you are able to do this full time. You made your money. You're at a point where you can do it full time. A lot of people have a job and I don't care about the excuse, right? Yes, it's hard. Make the time. How would you, with someone that's willing to do the hard, put the time in, recommend tangibly, what steps would you recommend for people building their brands online?
I wish I did the following. If I would have done this starting in 2012, if all I did was do 1 video a week, on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, probably Sunday morning. No, it'd have been Saturday. It'd have been Saturday morning, like talking about what happened last week or the deals I was looking at. That's all it has to be. Let me say this very clearly for folks. You do not have to post 3 videos a day, 7 days a week. You do not have to do that. If you just post 1 video a week for the next 5 years about what you are doing, your brand will blossom. It will feel like nothing the first year. It probably will feel like nothing the second year. But as you get to video 100, which again, 1 video a week for 2 years is 100 videos, you will find your community. You will find your voice. You will have a library of searchable content that will be historical references that you said what you were going to do. It only takes 1 video a week if you have a full-time job and you have a family and you have all of this. Just commit 1 video a week for the next 5 years, and you will be shocked at what you built in 3, 4, and 5 years, in my opinion.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Of course you can.
Okay, I'm kind of putting you on the spot. Would it be possible, because I know with communities, we always don't want to, like, you don't want to self-promote in a community that's not your community. I have heard so many people say, hey, I want to start something, like an accountability tab in the school group where school members could post, this is the video I posted this week, or here's the content I made this week. So it's not flooding the general page, but like a tab. And then like, okay, so Adam's going to start a channel. Okay, we're all following up. We can know that Adam started it. We could all go follow it. And then every week he posted, it keeps him accountable. And then if we didn't know he started it, but we watched him here and we would have followed him, we could go follow Adam's channel.
Yeah, so I'm game. Again, if it's not clear, I am game to support everybody in my community because, again, I think all of you are part of the army that's going to change the future and get me to my goal. I do have the constraints of school. I don't know it extremely well. Again, I'm a ready, fire, aim guy. I believe there are 10 subtitles or categories of which I've already used. I'm happy to change any of them. If you know school and you could tell me how to do it, I'll make it happen in a minute because it's only me. I don't have a team. I don't have VAs. I don't have any of that crap. If you could tell me how we could do it, I will support you. And I would like nothing more than 40 more school members to start a channel and get encouragement from all of us and do videos like this. And again, I want to be on more channels, right? It's hard for me to do one-on-ones, but I would like nothing more than once a month for me to come on someone's channel and get us, 6 of us talking. I would love that. And I'd love to be Sunday morning because I have a hole in my schedule from 8 to 10. I'm just saying, but I am somewhat flexible, but yeah, I'm down. If you could tell me how to do it, let's go.
To that point, I just want to say, those of you that are in school, some of you may have channels, but you don't have it in your profile. So there's a spot where you can add your handles and your pages so that when people click on your profile, they can go to that page. Yeah, so just put that in your profile so that people can find your channels or your Instagram or Facebook. But to that point, Dunning-Kruger YT says, can I suggest ask folks for their handles, websites, contact info, and generate a QR code for each label. This way, it is easy to capture handles all at once.
I have no idea how to do any of that. So yeah, somebody's going to have to take the lead on that.
Well, so at the event, I did print out.
Oh yeah, you had a QR code.
Yeah, I printed out a QR code for my channel and the school community. So there is ways.
Oh, you know what we could do next year? Maybe again, somebody else has to do this, but again, somebody else raised their hand. We could do a whole session on just have people's QR codes that you could walk by and scan, I guess. I don't know. Like you did.
There's apps that you could do it that are really easy. There's Blink, there's Hi Hello. It's just all
sounds like something you want to do next year, Curtis. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I can send some of the info. That's cool.
That's punt. That's what I just heard. Duck comments. All right. Somebody in the community will raise their hand if they want to tackle that. But I'm not doing that, but somebody can for sure.
All right. Before Joe maybe brings up a question, I want to jump to the super chat that was just put in. Our Escape the Rat Race Journey says, +1, Emily. Zuber, I'm in line to ask about a channel.
Great.
Flavio also super chat. Thank you. He says, thanks for this live, Lone Wolf. Yes, so there's a story behind that. But Joe, you got any questions for Zuber? Hold on, let me take you off mute. There you go.
Yeah. So Dylan Miracle talked about his journey, and he and I were talking one-on-one, and I can't remember if we said it on his actual presentation, but talking about 2.5 years of making cold calls until he was able to get his first deal finalized. And I think his first deal may have been more creative financing. His actual first whole deal was creative financing. And I had somebody else ask me about, hey, should my first deal be a regular deal or creative financing? And this is more for Adam as well. The idea of doing creative financing early in your journey versus not, and like Adam, being, how old are you, Adam? 19?
Adam,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Yeah, but anyway, like somebody like Adam getting into the game, like my biggest thing that I talk about is increasing income, right? Then you have more disposable income to be able to save and invest.
Yes.
But what are your thoughts on just creative deal structure for somebody early on?
I think we have to be really careful, because I think creative financing, I mean, Pace Morbium is a great example of that. He makes it sound so easy and all of that, and sexy and powerful, and the secret to everything he's done. But I don't think unless you've been in the game long enough that you can really connect the dots and put a deal together like that. Because again, you got to remember, the sellers on the other side, they have to trust you, and what they're seeing is an 18-year-old kid. But again, I think at the end of the day, real estate is all about finding value, and that could be terms or price or whatever. So that's where I think people need to start. And I agree with you. I think somebody coming into the game, your job's to focus on active income. And in the real estate game, that could be wholesale and all of that. But back to your point about Dylan, I don't think most people caught that he worked at this game for 2.5 years, making thousands and thousands of phone calls and rejections and questioning himself. And he just knew with certainty that this was the answer. I mean, I'm a daily discipline guy, and I'm not sure I could go 2.5 years with no success. That'd be hard, right? But yeah, it just takes that stick to it in this. And then once you get the unlock, you got all that positive momentum there. And, I think a lot of people miss that in his story.
Okay. I think Adam is going to try and jump off. I think he's having audio problems. He'll jump back on.
Okay.
Trisha, who unfortunately was going to attend the event, and then she broke her foot, so had to cancel. But she says, I would love to see focused sessions with content around negotiations, creative financing, novel housing ideas, rent by room.
Okay. Yeah, we did have Jared. Again, you'll see that Jared led rent by room, or co-living as he calls it. Yeah, we could definitely, that's something that should be on the agenda. I agree. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of like mindset and strategy, but I think having that tactical, hey, this is how it's actually done, or the tool that you use, or something like that.
More tactical, yeah.
That might be helpful.
I like it. Good feedback.
Let's see. Stephen P says, is there a way to have our school community be able to highlight a button as they join to indicate what state they invest in? We could immediately see all members that invest in our same state.
That's a school question. I don't know, but I know there's a map. There's now a map. It's funny. I actually paid for that map feature a year ago, but now it's free. Yeah, if you go to school, there's a map at the top where you can click and see who's in your city, state. All of that's there. I don't know if there's a button at the person level. I doubt it, actually. But.
Yeah, there's a map, and I think that's also why you hope that people introduce themselves and
Correct.
introduce and put where they're from, right?
Correct.
Let's see. Curtis, Emily, you got a question? While I look for some in the chat.
So I do have a question I'm going to go back a little bit. When you were talking about when you flipped, it was easy for you because when you were flipping, was this when you were still working full time or?
No.
Okay. But you said you had set up a team. How did this is something that I personally am struggling with. And I hear a lot of people struggle with, building a team of contractors and good contractors. Do you have any tips or what worked for you when you built that team, or was there some luck with finding good people, or how was that process for you?
No, it's again, building, property managers and again, as somebody who doesn't live in the city he works in, that's where the real work is whether it's the same answer for property managers as contractors is you gotta try a lot of people out. You gotta test them on small projects. You gotta manage the managers, and you kiss a lot of frogs, and it takes a lot of time. I fired my first 5 PMs, and I interview really well. They just know what to say. So you got to hold them accountable. I let everybody have one mistake, never two. And it takes a while, right? It took my 6th property manager until I found one I kept for a decade. General contractors, painters, handyman, it's trial and error. You can ask for referrals and all of that. But I've had people do great work, and then suddenly they get a girlfriend or a drug habit or drunk or whatever it is, and it just goes sideways. You got to stay on top of these things. There's no magic. It's work. It's focus. But once you lock in, I had 2 teams going for 18 months. They had work to go for 18 months. But it's not like I just woke up and had that. That probably took 10 years to set up.
Yasik has a great question or comment. It says 10-minute updates on teenagers' journey from year 3 to 4 would be a good idea for next year.
Yeah, if there's a teenager willing to, because that's the challenge is I thought about getting them on stage to maybe. Here's a crazy idea. This is maybe for Adam. So let's just say next year there's a 4-hour session, 50 teenagers in a room. Let's just assume it's decent content. Yeah. What would you say, Adam? This is for you. If there was $100 reward if you went on stage and talked for 5 minutes about what you learned, do you think teenagers would get up for $100 to get put on the spot in front of 300 or 400 people?
Absolutely. I don't know about you guys. I'm in college. It costs a lot. $100 goes a long way.
I'm down. So yes, that is my hope. My intention is to get 3 to 5 of these teenagers to talk about what they experienced over those 4 hours. And I will absolutely bribe them because that's what it worked for me at 18 years old.
California Wine Guide says, question for Zuber. I love your idea of doing something difficult each year. What do you do with these goals once the year ends?
So first off, it's a, so I've done these 2 completions and now I'm in my 3rd. I will always remember that 2024 is the year I ran a marathon for the rest of my life. You will be able to ask me, like, when did you run your marathon? 2024, because it's just that ingrained. 2025 is when I got healthy. I took my health seriously. I went from 35% to sub 16 body fat. And, I bench more now at 53 than I did at 30, right? 250 pounds for one. I'll just never forget that. The year I got healthy was 2025, and 2026, a year about writing. But when you do it every year, you can't forget it. Right? That's the beauty of the Misogi is once it will always be the year that you did that, because you thought about it all year, and it took daily execution all year. So yeah, I'll never forget those memories. And I talked about doing a marathon for 30 years, and I never did it until I was 52.
Maybe Joel and Emily can also touch on this, but this is Jen's comment kind of about the daily financial news, the school accountability calls, my lives. They kind of feel like it's not like meeting people for the first time at the event. I felt like seeing family over the weekend, being so comfortable, strangers was wild. Joel or Emily, do you since you guys your first time at the event, Joel, what was your thoughts, attending for the first time?
Okay. Yeah, not to single out people's names and cherry pick, but meeting people like Yasik and Max, and there was a crew of us in the back of the room. They were just hanging out, and Curtis. I just know that I had so much fun. Yes, it was at a real estate event. Yes, there was a lot of people that were smarter than me, but just hanging out and joking with the people in the back. While we all just soaked up all the information, like that vantage point for me, and being able to do a little bit of content along the way. And I just had so much fun, just a blast.
Jen Tam says, regarding the comment of not going to college, don't you think employers look for that though, and their chances of landing something is higher if they have that piece of paper, even in sales?
Not in sales. So I would say I would certainly give you a leg up for sure. But again, having hired salespeople for the last 20 years of my career, I will tell you look at Lumberjack. He dropped out of school in the 9th grade. Now, I'm not telling people to do that by any stretch, but there's something that burns in a sales guy who feels like they need to prove themselves and combat and compete with these other folks. The one thing I'll say about college is I've had great success with sales reps who did team sports in college, right? If you're a D1 athlete, you know what discipline is like, and you get in a routine. But if you're just a college guy and you just partied all year and you got a, some kind of underwater basket weaving degree, you're probably soft, frankly.
Let's see. We have about 10 more minutes. So I won't probably get to all the questions. So like I said, Zuber will be going live in school for another hour. But Jim, the grumpy contractor, does say, why is there no mention of the push-ups? Will there be a competition next year?
Yeah, I had no idea Dr. Jeff set me up like that. So again, we've been doing this all year, and he sent me this tests like January 1st of last year or January 2nd. I did them, and then he sent them to me again, and I just did them and gave him the numbers. I had no idea that he skipped push-ups. And then he puts up that slide. I'm like, holy shit, why is there no push-ups there? And then he freaking sets me up to go on stage and do push-ups. I mean, that was not cool. That was not cool. But hey, yeah, if you guys want to compete next year, I'm down. That was a shock.
I do see David and Morgan joining, the 9 to 5 investing couple. They weren't able to attend.
Yeah, they were on a cruise this year.
Yes, but shoot, where did their question go?
So does anybody else want to do 61 push-ups? I'll watch that. Anybody else got 61 push-ups in them?
Not me. I can't even do one yet from my shoulder surgery.
That's true. But, it's probably not good for you.
They said, hey, Zuber, you've helped a lot of people avoid bad decisions. What advice do you wish more experienced investors would listen to?
Oh, I think more experienced investors sometimes forget blocking and tackling. I think they get cocky. I think they stop doing the work. It's always about the work. It's always, you can't stop looking at your market. You can't stop writing deals. You can't stop forgetting what an average deal is and a great deal is. I think when you get momentum going and you do those things and then the market changes on you, that's where pain happens. I mean, listen to Jason Pritchard, Adrian Hernandez, Omar, Ty. All of them got by the market changing in 2022 when the Fed said there shall be pain. That group of people I just talked about, they're in the top 10% of investors, and collectively they lost $2 million because they weren't paying attention. And I told them, I have receipts. I told all of them to change their buying habits, and they didn't. They stayed confident in what they were doing because it was working. They didn't realize the market got them, and they lost multiple 7 figures. Never forget, you can't stop looking because the market will get you.
I had a question. I think it was Fred. He was the pastor.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So how does somebody or you taken his thing about the balance, the 4 Fs? Great like message. I teach health and PE, so I'm all for that message. Mm-hmm. But then you get into like Pace and all the other speakers about their growth and their fast growth and their pushing. Those don't really align very well, especially when you're trying to grow early on. So how does someone that's trying to manage that?
Yeah, that's always the challenge, because again, I think I go back to my core. Most of us should just get to 4. And it's running that balanced or harmony, right? Running life. You're moving forward, but you're not sprinting, right? Sprinting's hard. You can only do it for so long. But there is just this thing in some humans that they want to go 1,000 miles an hour. And that's where stuff breaks, right? Very few of us, Pace Morby is a unicorn. He's just a freaking unicorn. He might even be a Pegasus, right? Is that even more rare than a unicorn? But whatever. You just got to know that some people have it, and it's not about emulating them. And I suffer the same thing. I told you about that conversation with Pace 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's just like, know thyself. And we got to be comfortable in our own skin. Social media is a highlight reel, and I would argue it's a fake highlight reel for most people, but we still fall for it. So the more comfortable you are in your own skin, the better life you're going to have. Stop comparing yourselves to others. Stop. I mean, the thing that I hear from people all the time, and I probably heard it at our event 50 times. Something goes like this: Michael, thank you for all you do. I only have 2 properties. And they say the word only. And I always hear that like a big, bold letters. And I want to stop and say, that's amazing. You've got 2? You are ahead of the world. Don't say only. Don't minimize yourself. Don't compare your year 3 with my year 30. That's not fair to you or me, right? Stop saying, I only have 1. I only have 2. You are in the game. You are ahead of 99% of people, and you should celebrate it. You should celebrate it. And again, if you have 2, your only goal should be the 3rd. And that's where I think most people get wrong, is they don't make it about the 3rd. They make it about the 10th. And that's, my superpower only made it about the 3rd. So it was only the next one. So yeah, please stop saying I only have 2. That's amazing. Don't diminish. Don't talk yourself down. Having 2 is amazing.
All right, Zuber's going to go live in school real quick. So let me wrap it up with maybe Jen's final super chat, since she's a big part of the community. She just said, Zuber, what's your favorite moment or highlight from year 3?
Oh, look at the little guy, that little son there. Hi there.
My favorite is always the awards. It's always the awards. Surprising 10 or 11 people who mean a lot to me, who mean a lot to the community. And again, none of them know it's coming. Like Mark, if you guys don't know, like Curtis, how'd I get your picture? Mark got it for me, right? I lean on others to help me with that. It's always the awards. It's so fun for me to see you guys walking down that aisle, smiling ear to ear, a little embarrassed, a little surprised. And then whatever you say on stage is a blessing. It's always amazing. So yeah, the award ceremony every year gets me. And that's why it's year 1 in the morning. Because I want the people who get the awards to be celebrated all weekend. So yeah, it's always the awards.
It was a challenge to find a good one of Curtis. I almost was going to give an AI one. No, well, I don't want to take up too much time. You have to get to school. So those of you that didn't get your question answered, jump over to school, and Zuber will be live there for 1 hour.
Yep.
Joel, Curtis, Emily, Adam, thanks for doing this. And everyone go subscribe to their channels also. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Nice.
All right.
Thanks,
Good.
Mark.